This conference will now be recorded.
Excellent, thank you. Still at 5:59 here. We'll start in just a sec. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Jacob Haswick. I'm the chair of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for this year. I'd like to call the BPAC meeting to order. Before we get the ball rolling tonight, I'd like to start with the declaration of the state of emergency. Due to the nature of the declaration of a state of emergency due to novel coronavirus, COVID-19, pursuant to code section 2.2-3708, Point 2, this meeting is to be held electronic communications via the web platform GoToMeeting. The catastrophic nature of this declared emergency makes it impractical and unsafe to assemble a quorum in a single location, and the purpose of this meeting is to discuss or transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the public body. Additionally, for myself this evening, I just want to stress as well, also, we appreciate and welcome input and feedback. However, please, we must follow meeting procedures going forward tonight. Members of the public, meaning anyone not a BPAC committee member, must have microphones muted except during public comment time or unless called upon by an existing member for technical expertise on an agenda item. Public comments may also be submitted in writing at least 1 hour prior to the meeting and will be read by staff. Submit written comments to fampo@gwregion.org. And with that, we'll start with roll call, please. Thank you, Leah.
Good evening, members of BPAC, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I will go ahead and mark you as present. Everyone else, please take a moment to unmute your mic so that when I do call your name, you're ready to go. For Caroline County, Vice Chair Craig Pennington.
Present.
Stafford County, Brian Gooch.
Here.
City of Fredericksburg, Mr. Eric Nelson.
Yo.
Thank you. King George County, Mr. Chris Clark.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Friends of the Dahlgren Railroad Heritage Trail and Potomac Heritage Trail Association, Jim Lynch. Fredericksburg Trails Alliance, or Fred Trails, Rob Maple.
Present.
Fredericksburg Cyclist Club, Spotsylvania Greenways Initiative, and Virginia Bicycle Federation, Stan Huey. GW Ride Connect, Lee Anderson.
Present.
Thank you. National Park Service, Kirsten Talkin Spalding.
Hey, good evening here.
Thank you. Disability Resource Center, Deb Foltz.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And then we have a citizen representative for Caroline County, Kevin Whiteman.
I'm here.
Thank you. And that is it for roll call. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to just follow that up with a thank you and a welcome to Chris Clark, who is currently acting representative for the King George County, pending county board approval. I understand that's upcoming pretty soon here, so we do appreciate you and welcome you. Secondly, we welcome Kevin Whiteman with Caroline County as Caroline's new citizen representative. So thank you very much. If you'd like to just take a second and introduce yourself, I appreciate that, so everybody can get to know you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Chris Clark. I am the Director of Parks and Recreation for King George County. I joined the King George County staff in October of 2018. I worked very closely with the Friends of the Dahlgren Railroad Heritage Trail and their group, since that's really our main trail with 15.7 miles, and it was suggested by them that we make sure King George has a representative on the board. And Tuesday night, I will officially be appointed I just checked the agenda and it is on there. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I'm Kevin Whiteman. I'm a Caroline County building official, been here 16 years. I used to race bicycles. I was in the Marine Corps for 21 years and raced up and down California and through the Baja. And looking forward to what you all got.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whiteman. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda this evening is approval of the October 1st, 2020 BPAC meeting agenda. Do we have any discussion on that item? It's an action item. Hearing none, do we have an motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of the October 1, 2020 BPAC meeting.
Just to clarify, it is for the agenda.
Sorry, the agenda.
All right, yes, sir.
This is Eric, second.
Thank you. Any follow-up discussion? Hearing none, everyone vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone against? Okay, the motion passes. Approval of the October 1st, 2020 BPAC meeting agenda. Next item on the agenda this evening is approval of the August 6th, 2020 BPAC meeting minutes. Any discussion on that? I know I have a couple items myself, and anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to bring this up to the group in relation to the minutes drafted. This would be, I don't have a page number, it would be item 6 under discussion action items. C specifically, the BPAC endorsement of smart scale projects. Thank you. So I understand the minutes. I know exactly where this went. I know that night as well, though, the active smart scale projects that were being considered by localities, and really, I would say Stafford really kind of led with this initially with a request for an endorsement letter. We did actually have a presentation on the projects that have moved forward recently. I know the direction here is for future smart scale projects, but I was under the impression that the projects that did go forward, they have been presented, so there may have been an expectation there'd be an endorsement letter on those projects. I believe we have this month, those have to be in. So do we have any feedback from the localities on that? Was that your understanding as well, that we would be getting endorsement letters for those current smart scale applications?
Mr. Chairman, this is Brian. That is my understanding, that endorsement of the current projects was sought for that.
This is Eric. I thought that endorsement already occurred a couple of meetings ago.
My understanding was, did you all receive a formal letter, however, for your applications?
We didn't, because FAMPO thought it was a good idea not to endorse ours.
Okay.
Or at least the Gateway they didn't endorse. But we did get something.
Okay, Carrie, can we talk about that offline, or and actually let me ask. So Brian, did you receive a letter?
I did not, but I believe Brandon Brown is present, so I'll need to defer to him if a letter was received by Transportation Division. Brandon, do you know?
Hey, thanks, Brian. Yeah, no, and we were hoping for a separate endorsement from the committee.
Mr. Chair, if I may speak to this.
Yes, please.
You and I had discussed this, and we discussed at the last meeting that what we would do is we would ask each locality whether they wanted a letter, and we would provide it before the October 30th deadline. At the last meeting,
Right.
all we were doing was agreeing that we would provide these endorsements if the localities wanted them. So tonight on the agenda is a smart scale update that I'm going to give. And at the end of that update, I'm going to ask which localities want BPAC to send a letter.
Okay, that will address the concern I have. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on the meeting minutes as well, just moving to G, under the 2050 Active Transportation Plan update. So the last item, the last line there referred to my question on how this ties into the 2050 Active Transportation Plan. And I asked if there would be a set of recommendations for the region. The only thing I would request is what the actual feedback on that question was. I feel like there was some additional feedback and it's just not in the minutes. Any concerns with that? Okay, and then moving on for number 9, under member reports. For Spotsylvania Courthouse Sidewalk Project, I would just like to add that the transportation element that's referred also includes the Trailways Master Plan subchapter, because that's related to what we're doing here. So I just wanted to confirm that it also includes the Trailways Master Plan. Just a point of clarity. And that's all I have on the minutes. So if there's no other further discussion on this, I'd like a motion on the approval of the August 6, 2020 BPAC meeting minutes, considering the suggested changes.
This is Eric. So move with the suggested changes.
This is Brian. I'll
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, Brian.
Oh,
Any additional discussion? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, just vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Good.
aye.
Any against?
Aye.
I think everybody's good. Okay, that's an approval of the August 6, 2020 BPAC meeting minutes. And with that, I'll move on to public comment. Carrie Barber, please. Thank you.
We have received no public comment to this point, but are there any members of the public here present who would like to speak at this time? Okay, hearing
Hey,
none.
sorry, Carrie. This is Adam
Yes.
Lynch.
Okay.
Thank you. So I had a comment. So I'm a resident of downtown Fredericksburg, and we have, with the bridge being down, had a really great glimpse at a much reduced amount of traffic coming through our community, and many of these are residential neighborhoods. So I'm expressing our interest in finding ways to calm traffic now while there's a less through traffic coming through Fredericksburg, so that when that bridge goes back up and becomes functional, that would make it safer for us to cross our streets, and finding ways to slow down those those cars that are sort of using downtown as a thoroughfare would be really great for our residential areas and our downtown businesses as well.
Great. Thank you. Chatham Bridge you're talking about, correct?
Chatham, yeah. And I had a second comment as well, or a question, I guess. My day job, I work for Friends of the Rappahannock, and we recently had one of our members or a visitor ask about being able to allow the causeway to remain after the 95 bridge construction, which I thought was kind of strange. But this gentleman was wondering if it's possible to have a pedestrian access at the 95 bridge, and I was wondering if that's something that you guys had been considering, since they're already there doing that construction, if it's possible to have a crossing for pedestrians at 95. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak?
This is Kevin Brown. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
Yes.
Okay, this is Kevin Brown talking. It says I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I had submitted something on Facebook comment. I don't know if it made it all the way through or will be talked about, but it was about the crosswalk that's just east of the Fall Hill roundabout and the fact that
Yes,
it's,
I read it.
you got that one?
Yes, but please speak about it.
Well, there's a blind curve there basically, and the crosswalk is, I believe, too close to the blind curve. We do use that to go back and forth between the canal path and the Mary Washington Boulevard sidewalk, which is on the south side. And we use it frequently, but what we find is that we end up not using that crosswalk and we cross to the east of it, because if you use the crosswalk, literally you can't tell if a car is, you can use the little lights that are there, but you can't tell if a car is going to stop or not because you can't see the cars. And somebody's showing it, which I appreciate. But that crosswalk is very dangerous. We literally run across or we go east of it because it's just, you can't see cars that are coming and they can't see you. So it was a topic of discussion. A few people that do use that agreed with my comment. So there you go. And I'm not sure when that was put in, why that wasn't noticed. Maybe the wall wasn't there at the time they put it in and then the wall got built. I have no idea, but it just really it doesn't really make much sense if you think about it. Because cars coming down Fall Hill Avenue go real fast if you walk up and down there. Fall Hill Avenue is a place where there's a lot of speeding, unfortunately.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
That's my comment. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I can run across it, but a lot of people probably can't. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we have locality representatives from Fredericksburg and Stafford here today, so that's very helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Eric. I've got these things for action. Thank you.
Hi, can I speak?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Holly Clark.
Yes.
I have two little kids with me, so sorry if we get interrupted. Just to kind of piggyback on what Adam said, I feel like this has been a really great time to be able to ride bikes around downtown, just because. Sorry, between the pandemic and the bridge, it's like there's a lot more people riding bikes. It's a lot more comfortable for doing it. So I think if there's something we can do to try to make people to continue to feel comfortable walking and riding bikes, I think that's something that benefits the residents, like you said, the residents and also the businesses downtown. One reason I try to start to get involved is, like, I remember walking home from the library with my kids. We had to drive across Princess Anne Street at Pitt Street, and we almost got killed, and happens a lot. And I just think that's something that's a matter of design. It's not that we haven't enforced speed or anything. It's like we literally have a 2-lane highway going through downtown Fredericksburg. And I just think that's a little bit backwards, to be honest. It's a vestige of, like, when Route 1 was the way to get up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and that's not the case anymore. There's really no reason. It's really dangerous for people who live there. People have children and they want to let them go out and play and they can't. My street is quiet, and I think that should just be a privilege for someone who can afford to live on a quiet street. And I think this is something that can be improved by design. And I don't know all the time exactly who I need to talk to about it, but I think it's something that needs to be in people's minds. A lot of cities are doing this, where they're doing the 1 to 2-way street conversions for where there's 2 lanes going in the same direction. All of those things induce speed, and we need to do something about it, because people get hurt and people get killed, and it's bad for property values, for the tax base. It's bad for businesses, because people don't want to walk down a street where someone's driving by them 55 miles an hour. On Princess Anne Street, happens all the time. So, and I know this has been something that was in with the whole street sense program. This is something that has been suggested over and over again, and I never really get a clear idea. Maybe it's just a lack of time and research on my part, but, like, who has oversight of that? Because these are streets that are if we're talking about Route 3 and Route 1, and that seems to be this issue. But yeah, I just see a lot of that. Like we just repaved William Street, and like the hill going up by the college between Sunken Road and College Avenue, it's 2 lanes, going up the hill. So people speed up going up the hill, and then it's back down to 1 lane, and there's no bike lane there. We want to invite the people who live in College Heights, the kids who live on campus, to walk downtown, to ride their bikes downtown instead of driving. The more people drive, and the people who have to go around blocks because it's all one-way streets, with these 2-lane streets with Caroline and Princess Anne and William Street, Amelia, that's less parking that's available, and that's more people who don't feel really comfortable walking around because they're afraid that, as a parent of small children, I just want to say, like, it matters. Like, I don't want to have to have the stress of like maybe someone running my kid over because they're going like 55 miles an hour if you can. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's feedback this evening. We appreciate that. Good considerations moving forward. Okay, so this evening, next item are bylaws amendments. These are action items. The first bylaws amendments that are proposed this evening are to appoint members of the public by the governing body instead of by the chief administrator's officers, as referenced in the current bylaws. We would, I know myself locally, my appointment to the board ultimately came through our governing body, our board. I know, for instance, I believe King George, like we referenced this evening, there's a action coming here shortly by their board. Just open it up for discussion, this first amendment this evening, to ensure that the appointment of members of the public comes through the governing body. And before you this evening, the draft language is up here under section 2.
Yeah, Caroline's in the same situation. All appointments come from the board, not county administration. And so this change is for multiple jurisdictions. So just wanted to put that out there too. The Caroline's in the same situation.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Jacob, this is Eric. I don't see that it's worthwhile to require action by either the CAO or the governing body. It seems to me we could put language that's, shall be appointed by the jurisdiction, and leave it up to the jurisdiction to decide who makes the appointment. This is overly getting into the weeds.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Eric. If we get too specific, we're going to be amending this in the future. And so Eric does make sense that if we just change it to up to the jurisdiction, then it leaves it open to however the jurisdiction may want to appoint people in the future.
I agree with that as well. I think that gives us a little quicker response potentially also. If someone leaves and we need to fill a space or something like that, it could potentially happen more quickly.
And being a Fed, trying to get something from the White House to appoint someone is going to be a challenge. So the lower we can delegate that, the better it's going to be.
Good point.
I love the idea of maximum flexibility. I'll just throw this out there for the group. Would we want to have any degree of parameters on who would at least make the assignment? Would it be down to like a departmental director, or is it just any random person who just says, I want to go do it? Is there any concern? Should there be and/ors, or should we just leave it as was suggested? And I'm okay with that, honestly. I'm just throwing it out as devil's advocate here. Like you said, just appointed by the jurisdiction.
If you leave it as is, Jacob, if you leave it as is, governing body, I think you just need that flexibility. I mean, I know Stafford and Spotsy are really anxious about everything coming through their boards, but that's their call, and they don't need to impose it on everybody else.
Understood. So the language that it sounded like was suggested, as opposed to governing bodies, would be by the jurisdiction of the George Washington regional localities. Is that something, Carrie, that from an interpretation standpoint, that sounds like it'd be reasonable for you?
It does sound reasonable. I like it much better.
Okay. All right, so do we have any additional discussion on that proposed change then with this jurisdiction language? Okay, hearing none then, I would look for a motion potentially based on discussions with the amended language referring to jurisdiction instead of governing bodies.
Chairman, do we want to go ahead and look at the entire slate of changes to the bylaws and vote on that as a package, or do you want to do it piece by piece?
That's actually a really good question. And in terms of intent, can you give me a little guidance on that? For these bylaws, were you looking at these as individual amendments or the entire slate of all three?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you have to have a motion on each bylaw amendment unless they're contained in the same section of the bylaws.
Okay.
And so we have to address each of these separately.
I appreciate that correction. Thank you very much. I was under the impression it would be separate as well, but just appreciate that.
Yeah, so then I'll make a motion that we approve the language as amended and updated this evening.
This is Eric, second.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? All right, motion passes. We will appoint the members of the public by jurisdiction instead of by the chief administrator's officers. Thank you. Okay, second item this evening for the bylaws amendments, the process for adding new organizations. Proposal that we have would, in your agenda, you'll notice the concept of majority vote by current members of the BPAC. Do we have any discussion on that?
Do we have a way to remove people? This clearly speaks to adding folks in. I'm just wondering whether there's a need to be able to also, back out of something if need be.
If somebody gets too unruly or something.
Hey,
Yeah,
I resemble that remark, man.
I don't see us having to remove anyone, but it doesn't hurt to have that in there. Also, addition or removal of an organization by majority vote.
I just know that we've had that before when an organization has become defunct, and yet it still affects the quorum because they're part of the membership. And so I think that it's valuable to have a way to pull out.
So the language under section 4 regarding removal of member states, any voting member missing 3 consecutive meetings without explanation may be removed from the BPAC by the BPAC staff. The regular procedure for appointing a replacement will then be followed. That appears to be limited to attendance and BPAC staff making the decision on removal of members.
If I may interject, Mr. Chair, if I may interject, that's talking about specific members though, not organizations.
Okay. Are you aware of
So
any
you could
language
remove
regarding
them.
organizations?
So we could add something that would remove an organization if they became defunct or if for some reason we thought we didn't want to associate with them anymore, although that seems unlikely. But either adding or removing could be by simple vote, I suppose, of the members. That was my thought, but I figured I would let you guys figure out the wording. But another note is we don't have any rules in our bylaws about quorum, so it wouldn't affect the quorum.
Okay.
That's helpful. Thank you, Carrie.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the process for adding new organizations with Ms. Talking Spalding's addition of removal by majority vote as well as addition by majority vote.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear a second.
This is Eric, second.
Okay, any additional discussion on that? I'd like just a point of clarity again, Craig, if you could just restate that for us. Just want to make sure that we're looking, I read the motion correct.
Yes.
So for the removal language, this would be my majority vote. And then the second part of that language that you referenced, please.
I just said addition or removal by majority vote.
Thank you. I didn't know. Right.
Members.
Okay, any additional discussion on this? Hearing none, I will take a vote. All in favor of amending the language that would refer to adding or removing members by majority vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any against? Say nay. All right, hearing none, the motion is approved. Okay, lastly, has to do with remote participation, and that is language allowing remote participation. And that you will find in the blue text. That was the second draft in the agenda this evening. Yep, right in front of you here. So do we have any discussion on this particular bylaw amendment? Okay, hearing none, I will accept a motion.
This is
This is
Kirsten.
Eric. Motion to approve.
Second, Eric's the motion.
Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion passes. Okay, and moving on, we'll go to System for Management and Allocation of Resources for Transportation, Smart Scale Round 4 update. Ms. Carrie Barber, thank you.
Okay, this will be a verbal update, as this committee has seen the projects a few times now. But for the new folks, if you want to have more details on these projects, they can be found under the August 6th agenda for BPAC on the FAMPO website. For the following projects have made it through the pre-screening process and were submitted as full applications. For Stafford, Shelton Shop Road Shared Use Path, Mountain View Road from Chop Tank to Stefania, sidewalk and 6-foot shoulders, and from Stefania Road to Kellogg Mill Road, 6-foot shoulders, and a sidewalk at the US 1 and Lay Hill Road intersection with a covered bus stop. For Spotsylvania, the Route 2/17 Shared Use Path, the Harrison Road Shared Use Path, the 4 Mile Fork Route 1 and 208 and Lafayette Boulevard intersection improvements, Route 1 revitalization with sidewalk and pedestrian accommodations from Market Street to 4 Mile Fork. For Fredericksburg, the Gateway Boulevard extended to Cowan Boulevard with sidewalk and shared use path, and the Idlewild to VCR Trail connector with a bridge and crosswalk at Kings Mill. For Caroline, crosswalk between schools on Devil's Three Jump Road. So these projects are currently being evaluated by VDOT to be recommended to the CTB next year, and a final decision will be made in June when accepted projects will be added to the VDOT 6-year plan. This is the point where I will ask which localities would like BPAC to send a letter of endorsement along with their applications.
Stafford would like BPAC to send a letter of endorsement, please.
Okay.
Spotsylvania would be interested in a letter of endorsement from BPAC, please.
Anyone else? All right, if you change your mind, just email me and let me know, and we'll draft a letter and have the chair sign it and send it right to you as soon as we can, but certainly well before the deadline. And that's all for that.
Thank you very much. Moving on, trouble spot survey results. Ms. Barber, thank you.
Okay, so we ran our first survey. We ran it for about a month, the Regional Trouble Spots Survey. Go ahead and next slide, Adam. So our survey response, we ran it for, like I said, about a month, August 21st to September 21st on the FAMPO website, several county websites, on Facebook, and email lists. We got 92 responses, which is about a 30% participation rate and a 60% completion rate. It only took about 4 minutes on average for folks to complete the survey, so we did a good job of keeping it short. So most of the folks who did the survey were daily users of non-vehicular modes of transportation, as you can see here. Although 10% of them never used it, but still took the time to fill out our survey. Next slide. Most of the folks who answered lived in Fredericksburg, followed by Spotsylvania. Next slide. And their primary trouble spots, crossing Route 3 was the biggest one. 8 folks answered that one. And the next one was crossing the river at Falmouth Bridge, then crossing Route 1, then traveling on or to Route 17. The next one was Kenmore and Lafayette, the intersection there. After that, Lafayette Boulevard, several places. Crossing Lafayette from the VCR Trail to Lee Drive, Poplar Road, Mine Road, the Canal Path and Washington Avenue, and in general, using Central Park as a connection between the Fall Hill Avenue and Cowan Boulevard Smith Run trails. So those were the ones that were most often cited, but there were several others. You can see here I used as a picture that one, back at him, not quite done yet, sorry. I used here as a picture the one that Kevin Brown was talking about, but he's already brought it up for us. I wanted to make sure we took a look at that one. Next slide. So the stated infrastructure problems that most of the people talked about were the lack of sidewalks and crosswalks on the major thoroughfares, Route 3, 17, 1, and 208. Also was a lack of ADA access, roads without shoulders, a lack of divided bike lanes and bike paths, separated bike lanes, and a general lack of bike ped infrastructure, as well as being integrated with transit development. They talked about the idea that you can't get to the bus stop safely, so it's hard to use the bus stops. Next slide. So we did our first survey. What do we do with it? The next steps are greater engagement with the public on this, adding our survey respondents to our email list so they can keep informed. Publish the survey report on Facebook Active Transportation and other places and engage in further public outreach on these trouble spots and get people talking about them. Communication with VDOT. So we used to have a VDOT person on BPAC, Jake Herman, but when he left and VDOT had a time of being understaffed, they didn't send us a new replacement. So we need to start bugging them to get a replacement. We need greater communication with them. So we need to share the results of the study with VDOT, especially problems with specific crossings. And then for further study, I think we can make use of streetlight data to discover where the most people are crossing Route 3, Route 1, and other major thoroughfares, and investigate the feasibility of greater safety measures, such as crosswalks, pedestrian signals, etc., at those locations. We can map the survey and streetlight findings and share with localities, and then coordinate with the localities and consider improvements for incorporation into the bike and pedestrian plan we're going to be working on next year. Any thoughts?
Carrie, this is Eric. The city maintains its own streets and such, so communication with VDOT, they'll refer you to me, so you can use me as the contact for the city.
Okay, I was thinking about Route 3 being the major problem area, and that's outside of city limits. Part of it is anyway.
Oh, well, again, if it's in the city, it's ours.
Right, in the city, but also outside of the city.
Sure.
But yes, I will bother you. I will bother you plenty, Eric. You know it. So I should put bother Eric Nelson on next steps.
Well, if you're looking for contacts, again, you're communicating with a state agency, and for city issues, it's going to come to me.
Right.
So it's however you want to do it. But anything that's in the city, VDOT's not going to take care of it.
That's true. I neglected to put that on here, but I do know that.
Well, Carrie, this is Kirsten. I just want to commend you. Clearly, you got a good saturation out there, getting folks to respond, to get such a sort of amorphous thing, and to get people, 10% of whom don't even use alternate trans, to comment. That's pretty impressive. So congratulations on that. I think that's quite nice.
Thank you.
Do we have a sense of when we might, or how we might continue to gather information? You know, Kevin Brown obviously took the time to be both online to make his comments, but then to be on the communication strategy tonight to make comments. I think that shows a real engagement on that, and I'm wondering how we might be able to continue to use surveys like this into the future. Any thoughts or plans on that? I see, you know, the engagement here, continuing to engage as we are. Do we want to do more surveys? Do we see that as part of our continued communication strategies?
I definitely see more surveys as part of our communication strategies. Yes, more surveys. I've been more active on Facebook with these different groups, and I plan to do more of that and spread our surveys on these Facebook groups. I've been in conversations with folks on Facebook, and I plan to do more of that. So that's part of it. But I think definitely, go ahead. You were going to say?
No, Carrie, I was also just reflecting on some of the other comments about how having the Chatham Bridge currently closed has really made people feel a little more comfortable walking and bicycling in the historic downtown space of Fredericksburg City. I'm wondering whether there is potential for also a communication marketing strategy through the avenues that you're already cultivating to be able to encourage people to, how do you safely walk in the city? How do you safely bike in the city? And then also reaching out to motorists to try and get them to understand that this is a shared use area, not, you know, bigger means I got the right of way kind of thing.
Yeah, that's something we need to develop with the city. But
See,
yeah,
Eric,
it's a good time to start doing it.
yeah, Eric, she's bugging you already, or I am, one of the two, or both.
Yeah, you guys are great, just great. I do
COVID-19 has really, sorry, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, are you guys are also doing pedestrian counts or traffic counts on various trails?
We are doing
is that
pedestrian and bike count.
is that yours to report on as well? Because it could be you could combine that data just to have something more to go with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we currently have one bike counter that we are moving around to the different trails.
Right.
And we're going to start supplementing that with possibly with streetlight data. We haven't decided how we're going to go about it exactly yet.
Cool.
But I was just going to say that the current situation with COVID-19 has changed our streetscape quite a lot, and it is a good time to start seizing upon some of these possibilities for making things a little bit better for walking and biking. So this is just the beginning. We can do a lot with this.
I've found that one of the most effective ways to actually get bike ped improvements on the table is to have shared visions across multiple departments within a county, for instance, whether it be your public works group, your transportation staff and engineers, and your planning department. Everyone can kind of get on the same page and recognize that they're all kind of working towards these goals. It helps the process tremendously. I think that's one of the main reasons why with Spotsylvania County, with our transportation team, I would say those would be also a chief contact going forward if you're looking at coordination with localities. A lot of times our local transportation representatives, of which I'm not part in Spotsylvania, coordinate with VDOT. So some of these things pass through the county to get to VDOT as well. But I think there's much more of a shared vision as we've gone forward in time since I started with the county back in 2007. So you're starting to see more and more of these bike ped elements in transportation projects or recognition of bike ped improvements as a way to leverage future transportation improvements for vehicle projects. So I think this is very good. I'd love to see it as an ongoing effort. Maybe putting it out there occasionally throughout the years, tweaking it here or there, but I think it's a really good start. I appreciate that.
And I think VDOT involvement is going to be very important. This could spur some new, maybe smart scale studies that could really focus in on these areas and make, those studies really focus on the crosswalks and the sidewalks and traffic management, access management, and things like that could really help pedestrians. So we can share with them and steer them in the right direction. I think that'd be very helpful.
Agreed.
That's the hope. All right, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. We'll move on in the agenda. An update on the George Washington Regional Commission Greenway feasibility study grant. We discussed this at a prior meeting. Thank you.
Yes, we did. So I came to you guys a couple months ago about this, and with the excellent support of you and your organizations that you represent and the rest of our partners, GWRC was awarded funding for this Greenway feasibility study from the Department of Forestry. So now the big work begins. So from October 2020 to October 2021, we will conduct a year-long regional trail study with the goal of creating a more regionally connected, cohesive greenway network across our 5 jurisdictions. The design is going to prioritize connections to natural areas and historical and cultural sites, and we'll look for ways to connect to the East Coast Greenway, the Dahlgren Railway Heritage Trail, and the Potomac Heritage National Scenic Trail and other established routes. As you all know, a greenway network provides enhanced quality of life for residents and attracts recreational tourism, providing considerable economic opportunities for the region. As you also know, regional collaboration will be essential for this effort. So we're going to start, the backbone of this is 3 working group meetings. The stakeholders include all of you and your organizations, other trail and associated organizations, jurisdiction staff, DCR, DOF, VDH, VDOT, and other supporting organizations, and relevant local businesses to be determined depending on the ultimate sites. So our first meeting is going to be, what do we have? What do we want? We're going to be confirming our existing trail inventory and the trails with committed funding. We'll have a separate category for planned trails that don't currently have funding. We'll be doing a gap analysis, and we'll be looking at policies, funding sources, and challenges across our jurisdictions, how they differ, and how that may affect the connections between our trails. We'll be developing a shared regional vision. So there'll be lots of preparation for this meeting. I'll be pulling together each jurisdiction's information on trails, summarizing your policies, and doing some preliminary gap analysis with all of you. We'll be mapping existing and planned trails inventory. And this is going to occur in late winter 2021, so possibly around February. So between now and then, I'll have to meet with all of you, or just not meet with all of you because we don't do that anymore, do we? But get with you in some way and make sure that I've got a good inventory of all of the trails. Next slide. The second meeting is, how do we get what we want? We'll be developing goals and objectives to accomplish our vision, looking into policy development and adoption, what's needed for maintenance agreements, educating ourselves on best practices for landowner outreach and public education, and begin conducting general public outreach on the idea of a regional greenway network and its benefits. We'll have no specific routes yet. Preparation for this is to research, lots of research, and reach out to those involved in successful greenway projects. I already have several contacts in different parts of the country that have done greenway projects, so I'll be trying to learn from them. And this is planned for spring 2021. Next slide. The third meeting is, where do we put it and how do we pay for it? So we'll be creating a prioritized list of improvement opportunities and projects to focus on. This is based on basically the trails that you are already planning in your different jurisdictions. You're going to be prioritizing them based on gap analysis, funding sources, potential for right-of-way attainment, etc., and beginning the process of getting those projects, if they're not already there, into your regional and local plans where needed. So many are already going to be in the plans, and we're going to be doing public outreach at that time. We're going to be working on locating funding sources, and the preparation will be researching funding sources, details of candidate projects, identifying new potential stakeholders based on their project location. Now, there is a whole group involved in this. There's a large group of partnerships, and that's going to be on the last slide. You'll see that. That's planned for late spring 2021, that meeting. Next slide. So the next steps, creating a regional greenway is a very long process, no surprise to any of you. This study, when complete, it's only the first step, but it will create a regionally connected network route. So it's an important step. GWRC staff will be connecting with members of BPAC and other staff to confirm that we have all of the existing trails and take inventory of planned and committed trails and get GIS data where available. So talk to your contacts about the Greenway study. I'll be sending out more information as it's available. Next slide. These are the partners that we have currently gathered. So lots of folks, lots of networking, and like I said, it's going to be a very long path, and this is just the start. But I'm pretty excited about it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Is Caroline not a part?
I'm sorry.
Caroline not a partner, or am I just not seeing it?
We did not get a letter from Caroline, but Caroline is absolutely welcome to partner. We are accepting new partners. These are just the folks that have partnered with us thus far.
Because we definitely want to be a partner of this.
All right, absolutely, we'll be reaching out to you. Any other comments or questions?
Carrie, this is Jacob with Spotsylvania. Just a quick question for you. I know this has been identified as a first part. Maybe it's still too early or a conceptual planning stage, but do you have any sense on whether this will get down to design recommendations in terms of, like, for instance, there are some trailways that are best located along roadway improvement projects. And a question that we run into oftentimes is, without a specific road study for some of these roads, we don't have really clear guidance on what side of the road that trail should be on versus where a sidewalk should be located on the other side of the road. It's an issue that we've run into sometimes. We still have some outdated design standards, manual standards, things that we're looking at trying to update and strengthen. But do you have any sense that there will be any roadside recommendations with this plan as well?
So I can't, at this point, I think this is a very high level study and it's more about routes than getting down into specifics that far. I think this is about routes and connections at this level. But I'm hoping that this is just the beginning.
All right, thank you.
Carrie, I'm guessing early in the process of this, we'll be identifying some key points of interest that we want to connect with or want this greenway to run through, so we have a more of a cohesive network, and it's not just necessarily wherever we have the land or the capability to do it, but we're actually connecting some important destination points.
That's right. That will certainly be one of the factors. In fact, the stakeholders will be deciding on the factors at probably the first meeting. You'll be deciding what's the priority, what priorities you want to follow with this. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
So as I get more, yep.
I'm sorry, I cut you off there. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, as I get more information on it, I will send it out. I'll keep you all apprised. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the calendar update.
Okay, good evening. So this is just the latest updated FAMPO calendar with all of the meetings for FY 2021. Nothing has changed for BPAC, but November meetings were finally decided for CTAC, and I believe that TAC will be finalizing their date. It might change for November as well. This is available both in this meeting agenda as well as on our homepage for printout. And we will always try to have the most updated calendar for your referral. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is correspondence. Ms. Barber.
So this is a pretty cool article. Look at it if you get a chance. But from Streets Blog USA, we have, is a federal Greenway Act what the U.S. needs to recover from COVID-19? Very timely for all of our efforts. If you want to scroll down through this, Adam, or yeah. So this is being sponsored by the East Coast Greenway Alliance. And I would, if you get a chance, go ahead and read through it. It's a proposal for a greenway stimulus. There's 160 groups that have signed off on it. And just take a look, just read it if you can. It's pretty exciting. And that's all I have for correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is staff reports.
All right, for staff reports, if you scroll down to the bottom of this page for the transportation section, I would just like to welcome, we have some new folks. Maggie Campbell and Mohammed Khan are our new transportation planning interns. So welcome to them. I'd also like to welcome back Stacy Feint, our public involvement and Title VI coordinator. So we're very happy to have her back. And I don't believe I mentioned this last time, I'm not sure the timing, but Jordan Chandler has become full-time for us as a transportation planner. So happy about that as well. So lots of new changes for us. And that's my staff report.
Excellent, wonderful to hear. Welcome to you all. Looks like you have a full house there, so that's wonderful. Okay, thank you. Item number 9 is member reports.
Okay, so I don't know, Carrie, do you want me to go here?
So I guess if we were sitting around a table, we'd go around the table. But since you have something specific to say, I guess, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind letting the GW Ride Connect member go first.
I don't mind at all. I don't know who's going first, so it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so I just wanted to share that one of the websites that I go to called Bikes Make Life Better is celebrating their 10-year anniversary, and in doing so, they're offering a free preview of a movie called Motherload, which is a crowdsourced indie documentary made around May of 2019 about bikes and cargo bikes in particular. I posted a link where you can sign up for this. If you sign up, they'll give you a coupon basically that's good for 72 hours to watch the movie, and then at the end of that they're hosting a discussion which will take place at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, October 21st. Now, I haven't seen this movie yet. I watched the trailer, which is what's showing there on the screen, and the trailer looked incredibly interesting, so I have signed up and I plan to watch the movie. I hope it's a good one since I'm promoting it, but that's what I have to share.
Thank you very much for that information. And again, that was, just to confirm, was it bikesmakelifebetter.com?
It is bikesmakelifebetter.com, and in the chat section, I have a link going directly to the registration page.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else for staff reports? I don't really have an order on this one, so anyone want to step forward?
Mr. Chairman, Kirsten here. I can go for the Park Service.
Sounds good, thank you.
So just really quickly, 2 things for us. One, in preparation for the roundabout going in at the Lee Drive and Lafayette Boulevard connector, that the roundabout that's going in there, the downhill, which is actually northbound traffic, there's a little spur there that has been made one way. So folks that are on that front part of Lee Drive are seeing that change, and that's all due to the roundabout coming in that is making that needing to be that little spur one way. So that's already been put into place in in preparation for the roundabout going in. And then the second thing is the park is going into a comprehensive trail planning process. We've been working on it for a little while now, but COVID stopped everything, as we all know. That kind of like threw a few wrenches. So we're picking back up that effort. What we're hoping to do is pull in some partners as we talk about that as well, to be looking not just at one section of the park or another, but the whole 8,000 acres. And I could see where there could be the potential of doing connector routes from downtown areas or other popular spaces that are close to the city, close to the parklands, doing connector routes as well. So the idea here is the purpose of the trails would be very much to connect people to the historic and natural resources within the park. A secondary purpose would be sort of a healthy parks, healthy people, so the recreational side of things as well. And of course, with all of that, key is going to be safety. That's it for us.
Thank you. Anyone else?
For King George County, we got word this morning from VDOT that we had reached out to them about putting pedestrian and bike warnings at the 5 crossings of the Doggin Railroad Heritage Trail, where that crosses VDOT secondary roads, and we got approval this morning and got the information that they are going to be adding safety warning signs at all of those crossings, including enhancing ones that already existed on Lambs Creek Church Road. So that was good news.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Real quick for Caroline County. Yeah, real quick for Caroline County. Nothing major to report, but Carrie, I'm hoping to have a list of participants for the Lady Smith study by Monday when Mike gets back. So I know it's been a week or so since we were going to.
Craig, I think we might have lost you there for a second. You cut out.
Okay, you got me now?
Yes,
Anybody?
I do.
Anybody hear me? All right. It was real quick, nothing important for Caroline right now, nothing major, but I wanted to let Carrie know that we should have a list of names, participants for the Ladysmith study on Monday when Mike gets back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob Maple from Fred Trails. I just want to give an update. Mott's Run Reservoir, we just finished a 2.4 mile extension, actually connector that actually put a full 7.5 mile loop around the entirety of the reservoir. So we are seeing a significant increase of usage of all the trails at Mott's Run. And additionally, as of yesterday, won a grant, partnered as a matching grant with IMBA, which is International Mountain Biking Association. It's a $1,000 match grant to put trail signs at the quarry trails, something we've been fighting for and wanting for a long time. So now we have the funds necessary to purchase those signage and install them. And just as an FYI, we are going with the Virginia State Park signage, so 6x6 with the metal placards with difficulties, trail numbers, parking directions, and all those things associated. We're excited about that because that's one of the biggest things we hear is that people can't find their way around on those trails once they get out there. So yeah, those two things are pretty huge for the off-road community. That's all.
Rob, I guess I'll jump in just because I can piggyback on that. I could tell you without a doubt that Eric in the city and myself, as of today, actually, we're actively working on the connector between Mott's and the city. So that's underway. So you'll have a connection to the city one of these days soon, hopefully. Additionally, I would pass along that, and I hope I didn't do this before. There's so many projects that we receive over time, and I don't want to bore you. The Wawa gas station was approved at the corner of Harrison Road and Salem Church. That does include a private extension of the Virginia Central Rail Trail along the Harrison Road corridor. It's not actually along the old rail bed. However, that is the crossing point at Harrison and Salem Church, which VDOT actually preferred at the existing light there. We do have TAP funds and Smart Scale funding previous round for improvements at the intersection, and the TAP funds will actually extend the trail to the intersection from the existing paved portion of that trail, which is a little bit further down Salem Church Road. So we'll get the connection to the intersection, improvements across the intersection, and then frontage improvements with the Wawa, and then further down to the east, just east of Twin Springs subdivision, we have another private developer that was approved with a proffer for a trail fronting Harrison Road again. And as you know, we've applied for Smart Scale funding for closing a lot of those gaps as far down as Hazelwild. So that's underway. I would also pass along on our side in Spotsylvania County, if you're aware of the Hardee's that was recently constructed near the city of Fredericksburg, Spotsylvania County line along Tidewater Trail. We have an active by right site plan for a Dunkin' Donuts right next door to that. They will be extending that trail along their frontage as well. Every little piece, the more you add, the better it is. We've also have Smart Scale funding in for an extension of that trailway down as far as Shannon Airport. One of the things I would say is the Hardee's constructed with a concrete wide trail, and Dunkin' Donuts will be doing the same. With the Smart Scale, my assumption is we'll be going for asphalt surface. And that honestly would probably be my preference. However, our design standards manual allow for either. East Coast Greenway, this is a part of the East Coast Greenway, and per their design guidelines, I consulted with Sarah Sanford as well. They're content with what has been proposed and what is being built by those private developers. So we'll make do with whatever service we go with there. We would like consistency, but I don't want an asphalt trail running right into concrete. I'd rather have a natural break at maybe an intersection or an entrance. So we're working through it, but there is some progress on the private side, and we'll wait and see what Smart Scale does. Thank you. Any other member reports? Okay, I'm not hearing any other member reports. With that, I guess we're on item number 10 to adjourn the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The next meeting will be on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I motion that we adjourn the meeting to the next regularly scheduled BPAC meeting.
I second that. This is Lee Anderson.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Was that an aye? I'm just confirming.
Somebody really voted against closing the meeting?
Was that an against closing the meeting? I'm just making sure. Okay. I think,
if anyone's interested, VDOT has a open meeting going on right now that I'm going to head over to.
All right.
An open house for the upcoming I-95 work in Fredericksburg.
Excellent. Thank you for that update.
Okay.
All right. I think the ayes have it. So we are going to adjourn. Thank you all so much and have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Terry and staff.